Hello everyone, welcome to My Hero Academia, chapter 328 review. This chapter is titled, No Man is an Island. Now, this chapter, first off, let me start off where last chapter was. It was pretty much the whole start of Deku being back at UA in Class 1A, and All Might coming to visit, Deku getting a bath, Deku falling asleep, and then... what else did Deku do? He fell asleep, and we learned that there are 2 months until Shigaraki's completion. So yeah, now this chapter starts off in a flashback about Stain. So the flashback starts off about 1 month ago, Counterport Machinum Security Special Prison, Tartarus, where we see death and destruction going on, and we see some nameless villain going, "Women, give me some women. I never died to see the day when I could start collecting females again." And we see Stain come through and slit the dude's neck with a piece of rock, I'm guessing. And Stain goes, he says, "What's going on here?" As he looks and sees everybody running, he says, "I haven't heard a word of news about anything beyond these walls since my arrest in Hosu City." And just to remind you, Hosu City is where Stain got captured. And he says, but if Tartarus has fallen, the world must be beyond in dire straits. Information is essential." And he goes in and he looks to go see in the control room. And he says, "Nothing left in here." And he goes and looks and he says, "The others met your grisly ends gripping firearms, but this one clutches something else, like a babe in his arms." And the guy says, "Why grab this, another weapon?" And Stain thinks, the ragged breathing of a man doomed to die. And Stain says, "I require information." And the guy says, "Chizome Agakurigo, you worked with Shigaraki. This is not for you." And Stain says, "So, it's something that matters then." And he says, "Stored data." And the guy says, "You killer." And he says, "Drop it. That much reached the right people," as he shoots him. And, he tries to shoot at him. I don't think he makes it. And Stain says, the guy still says, "Give it back. Not for you. Must do my duty." And Stain says, "This era has gone awry. Rest reassured, your conviction will reach the right man." While the guy who's on the ground says, "Asaguro, are you a man or a beast?" And Stain says, "I'm merely an ally to the world as it should be, but a beast still the same." As he walks out, or he looks around the corner and sees All For One standing on top of a building, having all of these heroes look up to him with Shigaraki standing beside him. And Stain thinks, that nameless man guarded this data to his dying breath. As for its true value, I cannot say, so I will deliver it to the only one who's earned my trust. To his final moments, that guard held a dying ember of resolve to act for society's sake. You must pick up where he left off, because everything began with you. And just a note during this, we see that Stain jumped off the side of Tartarus to go swim in the ocean, presumably. Perfect sense to me. But we then cut to All Might, standing there talking with Tsukuyoshi, who was the detective who knew All Might's secret. And we see that he's grown some stubble around his face, showing that, oh boy, he's gotten old. And it says that All Might delivered the intel to Tsukiyoshi's people, and later rejoined with them after speaking with Deku at UA. And Tsukuyoshi says, "Glad to hear you've patched up things with Midoriya. Anyhow, we're really losing face in getting help from a killer like this, but Tartarus' system is a standalone one, built in that way in order to prevent interference with external forces. So normally, nobody else would have access to this data in any form." And he says, As for the data itself, it concerns a cause for nervous system shutdown. The radio waves that Shigaraki made extensive use in the main battle. In this case, the prison was hit with those blasts over and over in both inside and out. And then we see one of the people on All Might's, not All Might's, but Tsukiyochi's police team. He is a cat with features, and he says it's sort of a thing that all of the series cops have been animals. There was a dog cop to talk to Deku and Todoroki and Ida after their whole "hey, you're a hero killer, not a hero killer anymore" incident. But the cat says, I'm just going to call him that because I don't think he ever gets named. Or no, way he does. His name's Sansa. But he says, because All For One himself must have synchronized with his vestige residing within Tomura Shigaraki, right? And he says, and All Might says, well, Sansa, yes. The piece of his consciousness inside his quirk works as a conduit for shared thoughts. I've experienced the same phenomenon with One For All. The problem is that it isn't a two-way channel. The vestige of me within my One For All seems to have access to my thoughts, but I have never experienced any syncing through the vestige's thoughts. Except recently when I touched a boy, or rather when I was close enough to touch him, whatever my vestige was thinking and sort of feeling flowed into me. It's not words exactly, it's more like feelings flowing from you. Even if we suppose that All For One can sink to a greater degree than One For All, do we really believe that his real body, locked up 5,000 or 500 meters below the sea level, could receive such specific thoughts from the vestige of Shigaraki? Sounded and says stranger things, right? Kind of like a twin connection. And Tsukiyoshi says that could be very true. Well, but in this case, they use those radio waves to communicate. These radio waves can be used as signals to give the Nomu very specific commands. We should assume that the man in possession of the same quirk could receive and interpret those waves, and the waveform data that storage media resembles is a conversation. And Sada says, then it's already been decoded? What were they saying? Make him complete in 38 days. And Sada says, oh, based on, and then, let's see, I think All Might says, based on research from Central Hospital, I thought we had 2 months, no? He could have rigged the results as we were bound to get a bluff. Only he and his vestige could interpret that correspondence at the time, so if we assume they discussed a true schedule, then Tomura Shigaraki will be a complete vessel within 3 days' time, being that a bunch of time has passed. Being that was a whole month ago, whenever the whole prison break occurred. So next thing that happens is we see council from the UN, or what I will be calling the UN because it's got to be the United Nations. And they say a direct request from All Might, yes, but this sort of dispatch can't happen in a day. Even in the best of times, an international deployment takes a staggering amount of procedure and paperwork. The strength of our heroes is directly tied to domestic power, and when they go abroad, a nation is less able to deter attacks and the balance crumbles. Any large-scale deployment tends to encourage the major crime syndicates to stir up trouble. But this time is worse than ever. Countries all over the world are in turmoil, almost as if those syndicates are working together. According to the Interpol, the man known as All For One has underworld connections in a number of countries. Even so, he cannot disregard this earnest plea from Endeavor Hawks and most notably All Might. My nation's hero, Salam, is quickly losing patience. He's taking to muttering, I will flatten that All For One. The same goes for our hero, Big Red Dot. He questions why aiding a friend must involve so much red tape. And most of this has been said by different people, by the way, like the one talking about the hero Salam, the one talking about the hero Big Red Dot. Those are different people from different countries, presumably. And another person says, on that note, ours has already left. She sit around any longer. She skipped out on everything and just flew off. And we see that that was the United States UN representative, as we cut to a pilot saying, "Hey, no skin off our back, Star. The mission's guaranteed to get the green light anyway, sooner or later. Besides, the request came from All Might himself. My master's in a pickle. Why would I think twice?" As we see the America's #1 hero, Star and Stripe. And that's where the chapter ends. Now, this chapter has an interesting beginning with the whole Stain getting the data, which I guess it wasn't really necessary. I don't think any of us were really wanting to know how Stain got the data, but good to know. And then the whole thing with, Shigaraki will be ready in 28 days. Fair enough. And then the UN meeting, I think, is the most interesting part of the chapter, since it really shows that, and now we know of 3 foreign heroes, besides the ones from the movies and all of that. But we know of 3 heroes in the manga. Salam, Big Red Dot, and now Star and Stripe, which I think is all very interesting. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. Thank you for watching, and hopefully next chapter we'll see what's up with the United States of America's #1 hero, Star and Stripe. Alright, thank you for watching. This is Glowplasma231 out.